Scotty Elcon with Sea League Film News here at the Dallas International Film Festival, and we're here with the team behind Bill's Records. Guys, introduce yourselves.
My name's Chuck Przybyl. I'm the director of Bill's Records.
I'm Emily. I'm the editor of Bill's Records.
So Chuck, when was the first time you actually came down to Bill's Records? Because you told me on the red carpet that you kind of a records guy. You kind of go around and check out different stores. I mean, for us, Bill's has been iconic for many years. But when did you first get to go down there?
So I believe it was in 2014, and we were shooting some things for Dallas City of Learning, and we were shooting all these nonprofits and great things around, and I was staying at the hotel very close to Bill's. I will do a search when I'm in town for record stores, and his was very mysterious. It would come up, but it would, like, the locations were wrong, and everything is just wrong, and I couldn't figure out if it's a record store or not. And so I had already gone to one record store, and I had about an hour before I was going to a concert. So I walked into Bill's Records, and I was just amazed by what was going on there. And I started digging like mad, and I had a little stack. And at like 9:59, I walked up, because on Yelp, I think it said it closed at 10. And I was like, wow, this guy doesn't look like he's in a hurry to get out of here. And I handed him the records, and he thumbed through them, and he started asking me where I was from and other things, and talking about each record, talking about when he purchased it. Like, there was an Anthrax record from like 1987 that I'd never seen. And yeah, he's like, oh, I remember when this came in. This used to sell for $12, you know, things like that.
So did you immediately, once meeting him, know, like, okay, because I mean, anyone who's ever met Bill, there's that instant feeling that you had, which is, I mean, this guy's a little weird, but he's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I get his weird ass world, and he's always smoking a cigarette. So you're like, he looks cool. He's just chilling.
Yeah.
Behind his little stack. Did you already immediately know this is an interesting character, and you wanted to? Did the germ come from there, or did it come later?
It kind of, part of it came from just how much he told me, just from meeting him the first time, and I felt like I knew so much about him. Then I had to really disassociate myself to get out of the store. So I had to kind of, you know, break away, and I just kept thinking about Bill and his place. And when I was coming back to Dallas, I decided to give him a call and see if he wanted to be on camera. And I thought I might just do one small interview and maybe do some close-ups of the records in his place. And it turned into, you know, 4 trips to Dallas and I don't know, about 8 hours of interviews or something like that.
Longer, yeah.
So when did you guys connect with the other interviews? Because you guys got a few more interviews than I ever expected to see. I thought it would be a couple of principal people, but over the years, Bill's people have moved on. Like, he doesn't have like a core group. It's just Bill. And yet you guys have some really interesting stuff in there. How did you guys come about figuring out that you guys were going to focus on Records Day and that element? Like, when did you guys kind of get the ball rolling on what turned out to be a really fascinating documentary? I was really blown away with how much you guys showed a case of Bill and the store and just what's going on there.
So Emily started working on it just a couple months after the first. I shot for 4 days the first time I was out here, and so she started working on that. And the first day I shot, it was really cold in Dallas. It was like 30 degrees, and no one came in the store. So I had no idea that people were actually coming in actively. I thought he was just trapped there alone with his records. I literally spent 16 hours in there, just him and I. No one came in, and so by the last day, people started to come in and talk to him, and he was hugging people, and these long-lost friends just were coming in randomly. And I think once we looked at that footage, we knew that wasn't the whole story. He wasn't alone. He has this huge network of people that come around. And
Yeah.
Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, I remember, like, in the beginning, it was like, should we just focus on Bill, or should we focus on Bill and the people around him? But, like, it was just, you know, including other people in it, hearing what they were saying from Bill was, like, you know, I mean, he really does have this, like, huge connection of people just around the Texas area that know him and come visit him from like states over. But like having a story just about Bill just felt unique and very personal.
How much access did Bill give you to the actual store and all that's in there? Like, were you guys able to go through and, I mean, he obviously has his own way of doing things. There's no other store that I've ever seen like it. So as far as getting access to the store, how much did you have and the shot choices and what you guys were going to show?
So it was really all access. He's there every day from 10 a.m. till 3 in the morning. He lives a half a block away, so he just walks between his store and his apartment. And I would, time kind of stands still within there. The sun might be up, it might be down, but when you're towards the back of the store, you don't really know the difference. And I would find myself getting lost in all kinds of different old memorabilia and things. And it's just, right now, it's just plastered. It's really wall to wall with memorabilia, with his even books and artwork. He collects artwork. He's really into architecture. And all these were great surprises too.
Who's the most interesting character that came into the store? Because, I mean, anyone can come in at any point, I feel like, with this store. Was there anyone that just stood out like, who's this character coming in here that knows Bill somehow?
I didn't film so many people that came in, but I was there for a lot of people that came in. And he has the late night crowd, people that leave the bar and are drunk and stop in and sometimes get into arguments with him and, may have a grudge from a year ago and just happen to show up and want to talk to him about it. And it's an interesting mix of people that are still coming in. He has friends that are local, and then he has people that come in from, they're just in town for the weekend, and now they live in LA or they live in New York. And Bill's was a really powerful thing for a lot of people because they feel they could be who they wanted to be there. They could pop in, they could hang out as long as they wanted. No one was going to judge them. I remember one guy, he said, what was it? I had an earring, or you could have an earring.
Yeah, oh yeah, like a earring and like offbeat Dallas. It was like you could go into the store and you could be who you are, and there were like no problems. Like it was a safe place for a lot of people, and like some of the customers said that.
It's a weird home. It's a dirty, dusty home, but very much is a home for so many people. Talking about the grudges, because this is something that's always come about with Bill and his way that he prices things and the way he sells. Can you guys get a little bit about that side of him? I don't think people realize that he does it on the history of what he knows, not on what you're about to purchase. It's Bill's connection to you, the way he sells it to you, I guess.
So in all honesty, the first batch of records that I picked out about 10 records, and I thought I was in a thrift store, and I was assuming I'd pay like $10 for 10 records or something like that. And he started to go through them and kind of hem and haw, and then when he started to say the prices of what they were when he originally purchased them, I knew I was in trouble. So I think I got 3 records for $27 or something like this the first day, and I ended up putting about 6 of them back, and I thought that he might change his mind and say, oh, well, I could give you those for $1 each or something, but he didn't change his mind. And I tried to press him on this a couple times to see what his philosophy was behind this. First of all, he doesn't alphabetize or price anything because he's just one guy. He would spend his whole life pricing and alphabetizing. That's one part of it. The second is there's that mystery, right? You don't know what the price is. It's difficult. It's a nightmare in some ways for someone that likes to dig and collect because you don't know what you're going to end up paying. That's definitely true. But from Bill's point of view, I think what we ended up getting out of it was, these are his things. These are his things, and he feels close to them. And he did say once, I don't know if you remember this, but he did say once that if someone's going to come into his place and pick out all the gems and want to leave with the gems, for a very low price, then they're mistaken. That's not what's happening there. What's happening is you have a giant selection, and if you find those gems, he's going to charge you the gem price. So
It almost gets to the heart of the fact that he does know almost everything that's in that store, or does know everything in that store. And yet, like you said, there's no rhyme or reason of where he puts it necessarily. But to him, there's a story with each piece. And it's not just the records, like you said, the memorabilia, the books. I can't even imagine trying to buy a book from Bill. Like, there's something special to that type of feeling from this guy that he's totally unique in that sense. If it's a different type of barter. It's not like a barter where necessarily you're bartering to make it cheaper. You're bartering because there's a story behind what you're about to purchase. Was that fascinating to come a hold of that? Like, how many other stores I've never come across anything like necessarily like that. Was that something fresh to you?
It is fresh to me. I haven't seen that. I don't think we explored that too much, but
No.
you have a story from today even.
Oh, yeah, which one?
Well, I guess with the record, because they were talking about records, and you wanted to get your mom a record.
Oh yeah, it was. I was just telling. My mom loves records, and so she had this. She had a big collection, a lot of rare records, a lot of records that she would listen to, and then we had a flood, and they're all ruined. And one of the records I remember growing up that she would tell me about was this one, Michael Jackson and. Maroon, and another one that I forget. But anyway, so I was telling him about how my mom's favorite record is Michael Jackson, and he just pops up with 2 Michael Jackson records, and he's like, well, here's a limited edition with Michael Jackson's face on it, and then here's the original record of Thriller and Pretty Young Thing, and I was just like, he's like, give this to your mom, and I was just like, because my mom's never had a record. Ever since that flood, so it's just touching that, I'm going to send her this Michael Jackson record, and Bill wanted to give it to me to give to my mom.
So she also had to decide which one. So one is a rare limited copy, and the other one's the original Thriller.
Yeah, and I didn't want to take the rare one. I felt too bad, but...
And I think those are the odd decisions you have at his place, too. You don't see that other places. And it's like, well, if I'm going to get the new one or the old one or the special one or sometimes the autographed one.
Well, and I've gone to so many. I mean, my dad does antiquing. And so, we'll go to these antique, where they buy them. And I cannot tell you a story that they've told me about that object that they've bought, very rarely. The way that Bill has with each of his records. And you feel like each time I see a record, it's like, what? Where did he get this from? I've never seen anything like the records in his store. I mean, this is my first time, being here and going to the store, and I'm just like...
What was the quote? It was, Bill has every record you've never heard of. I think Bill has every record you've never heard of.
What is it like being able to show it here to a Dallas audience that obviously is very familiar with Bill, but there are so many people that don't know Bill and don't know the record store? So
to me, it's hugely important. It means the world to have the premiere here and to show it in Dallas. I'm just so glad this worked out. The other side of that is we made a conscious decision not to cover really the history of Bill and Bill's records, and there's a huge, long, storied history, but the present and what Bill is doing now, and I think that's sort of an important statement, because so many people know Bill, but they might not know what he's up to or where he's at, or maybe they could stop in and see. But this brings it to a wider audience, people that have a connection with him that it may not be the most always the most uplifting story, although I think our story is uplifting. But to see that he's now 72, going on 73 years old in a couple weeks, and he's still running the record store. He's been doing it for 43 years. He still hosts bands. He's hosting 2 weekends of bands on April 15th and April 21st, I think, or 22nd, and
Not just a few bands,
it's
40
like
of
50
them.
bands, yeah, or more.
The fact that he does that too.
Yeah, and he's still doing his thing, and he loves to talk to people. He's been sort of misunderstood, I think, too. There were stories that so he used to drink. He quit drinking, I think, 12 years ago. So he doesn't drink. He still smokes like crazy. He's never been into drugs or anything like that, contrary to what some people thought. There was a whole, one of the movies that came out. He had never had any drug history. He's kind of he told us once that he was a dreamer. The whole reason he's doing what he did is because he convinced someone to help him build a miniature golf course. And this is, he made the money off that he was able to start the record store with from selling the miniature golf course. Because he didn't want to make more miniature golf courses. He wanted to hang out at the miniature golf course. So he would just hand out the club and the ball, and people would, they wouldn't want to hang out and talk to him. They'd take the club and the ball and they'd walk away, and then they'd just drop it off and leave. So he wanted to do something where he could connect with people. So that's part of the reason in his history, he sold the miniature golf course and started to do a flea market and bought all kinds of stuff, and it became the record store.
Well, guys, tell us where we can find out more information about the documentary, but also where are you guys going from there? Chicago? Anytime soon?
We do hope to show it in Chicago. There's a couple of great film festivals later in the fall that we hope to be part of. It's submitted to about 10 film festivals right now. It more than likely will show in Australia. And let's see, you can go to my production company's website, mostviz.com. The production company is Most Visual. And there's more information there. Bill's Facebook page is completely full because it's a personal page, so that might be difficult to find out information. But most information at Most Visual or mostviz.com with an S.
Well, guys, thank you so much for it's. I think it's important that it's someone from the outside that tells this story, because there's so many relationships of people, I think, here with Bill. He's been here forever. So thank you guys for making the film, and thank you guys for bringing it here home and letting us have the world premiere. It's been a real pleasure. And to bring Bill out to the red carpet, I thought there's no way in hell he's getting out of the store. So thank you for that. That was awesome.
It was an experience. It was amazing.
The red carpet experience is one I will never forget.
Thank you, guys.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.